Welcome to this week's episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast, where experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based in Kingston upon Thames are invited on to share their story with us. I'm your host, Amir Rochalina.
This week's episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast is brought to you by Holland Harnham Wills, a financial planning and wealth management firm based in Kingston upon Thames. Holland Harnham Wills specialises in retirement planning for senior professionals and successful business owners. Visit hhw-uk.com to start feeling more relaxed and confident about your financial future.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast. I'm joined today by Roisin Hope. Roisin is a yoga teacher, the founder of Concrete Jungle Yoga, and a brand ambassador for Sweaty Betty here in Kingston. What's unique about Roisin is how she transitioned from a successful career as a freelance hairstylist and makeup artist, embarking on a 200-hour yoga teacher training journey, which has allowed her to better align her work with her mission to help people. And be sure to listen to the end, where Roisin shares with us some simple breathing exercises that can help you re-energize throughout your day. So whether you're interested in knowing more about yoga, or would like to know more about what it takes to run a successful independent business, then I hope you enjoy this episode of the Inside Kingston Podcast. Welcome, Roisin Hope, to the Inside Kingston Podcast. Roisin, I'm really excited about this conversation because I've always been interested in yoga, but I only really got a chance to practice it, or to be honest, had the guts to practice it for the first time during lockdown through YouTube videos. And I'm sure that's the case for many of our listeners. So it's great to get a chance to speak to an actual yoga teacher to demystify some of this this notion of yoga being quite intimidating. And I'm sure that we're going to learn a lot from your expertise in this area. But to kick off this conversation, I'd like to go back in time, if that's okay. So, Roisin,
go ahead.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up not too far from Kingston, actually. I grew up in Coshilton Beaches, which is kind of more, it's just past Cheam, which isn't too far away. And I was born there. I grew up there. I met my husband there, he went to Kingston University. And our kind of pathway was back to live here because it's just such a beautiful town. So I'm only about 30 minutes away, so not too far.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what did you study after secondary school?
So after secondary school, my big aim was to be a makeup artist. So very, very different from what I do now. Well, kind of different, holding space for people in a very different way. But I wanted to go into hair and makeup. So I studied at the London College of Fashion. I went there after I did AS levels. Studying the academics wasn't really my pathway. I was always more of a creative learner. So I went to the London College of Fashion. I studied hair and makeup. I also did an evening course at the same time. So I would be at LCF during the day, and then I would go in the evening to study hairdressing. So I kind of did two courses alongside each other. And that was predominantly because at the time we didn't have social media. I'm 32. We didn't have social media or any of those outlets. So my parents weren't sure about how I would get into makeup, like how it would happen. So I studied hairdressing as a fallback. So that's where my kind of learning started at London College of Fashion and locally studying hairdressing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, what I first went into. Yeah.
And could you tell us a little bit about your career journey before you set up your yoga business?
Yeah, so I mean, as you can tell already, it was very different to what I've been doing. So I started off, straight out of college, I went into work at a local hairdressers, and I kind of built my way up there, but I always wanted to do the creative side of things. So I would, we didn't have an art team. It was a small chain of hairdressers, although a very good one. It wasn't, a big brand where they have like an art team to head it. So I kind of took it upon myself, which I generally do, to sort of enter myself into these big, huge national hairdressing competitions. So I used to enter myself for the Weller Colour Trophy and all these different various ones, and I got through to regionals in London and everything. So I did all of that, and then I had itchy feet, I wanted to go out there, I wanted to be creative. So I decided to leave, and I set up my own freelance hairdressing company, which I did on my own. It was very, very successful, and then because of that, I could go and do photo shoots at the same time. So I did that for about 10 years roughly. And I really enjoyed it. Most of my clients turned into friends. I set up a wedding business as well, which was great. But as time went on, I started to realize that I was actually quite lonely, and that my whole business was based on people's aesthetics. And that wasn't fulfilling in what I wanted to do. And I'd started doing yoga anyway for my own mental health, my own mental well-being, and the physical side of it predominantly when I started. And after I got married, my husband suggested to me that I did my yoga teacher training. And that was kind of it. It was just a big transition. I did my yoga teacher training to, first of all, just meet some like-minded people. When you get to a certain age, I'm sure everyone can relate to this. Your friends are all over the country. You're not, perhaps going out in the same way that you were before. You're more career-minded, or people are having children. So meeting people, which I don't think a lot of people kind of confess to, is it actually becomes a lot harder when you get older. I don't know if you can agree, Amir. But it's not as easy as, stepping into the playground, when you're at school. So I did my teacher training, my teacher training at Try Yoga in London. And then I didn't have any idea that I was going to become a teacher. I just wanted to meet like-minded people. But you know what? I loved it. And for the last 3 years of my yoga business, I had been juggling my hair business and my yoga business. And I was becoming more and more in demand for my yoga teaching. And only just before lockdown happened, I decided to close my hairdressing business. And I'm now a full-time yoga teacher.
Wow.
Right in the middle of a pandemic. So that's kind of where I'm up to now. That's really long-winded.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
that gives us a lot of context.
Kind of just like, yeah, I just made that bold decision. My husband's self-employed, I'm self-employed, but you've got to rip the plaster off and jump in with 2 feet. That pretty much sums up a lot of people who have set up a self-employed business. You just got to go for it. If you believe in it, you've just got to do it. So that was my transition. I loved my hairdressing. I love the creative outlet of it. And the beauty of it is that it's like a trade, I can go back to that at any time that I want to. So I wasn't afraid. It's just I'm in a different transition of my career at the moment. So yeah, that's where I'm at now.
That's awesome. And Roisin, there's so much in there that I want to sort of pick out throughout this conversation. I want to start by firstly agreeing 100% with you. I'm 35, and there is no doubt that, the older we start getting, all of those things you mentioned start happening. Friends all over the place. Your focus goes from career to then starting a family to then having a young family and juggling career and everything else. So it does become harder to meet people. I, for one, went straight back into my own profession. So I joined professional organizations within my field. I set up sort of little groups of next generation financial planners so we could meet people of similar mindset, similar age. So I'm 100% with you there. One thing I want to break down just slightly further, because I think this would be interesting for a lot of our listeners. Tell us a little bit about the journey of becoming a yoga teacher and going through that yoga teacher training.
Wow. Okay. So there's so many different ways you can do it. For me, at the time that I did it, my dream was to go to India. That usually takes a month. So your first teacher training is 200 hours. That's like that is the first training that anybody does. And there's many different, so I'll go through it in detail if you want me to. I can talk about yoga till the cows come home because it's my favorite thing in the world. So you started doing your 200 hours. And like I said, you could go to India and do that. You can kind of do it anywhere in the world now. But the time that I did it, we just got married, and I was feeling really lonely, and the thought of going away, I suffer with anxiety. The thought of going away from my home life just wasn't within the realms of my headspace. So I decided to take my training in London, which is different to India. India is very much more, or another part of the world is very much more immersive. So you live and breathe the yogi way. You tend to eat vegetarian or vegan the whole time. You wake up at 6 a.m. to practice. It's very, very, very intense. My training was different. It was over 7 months. And through that, you go through your philosophy training, your anatomy, the Western world anatomy. Everyone's quite hot on it. I'm very hot on, I kind of take not a spiritual aspect of it, but I try to bring more of a mindful aspect of it. And then obviously you have your physical asana side of it. So over 6 months, I was there for 4 days, for 4 days a month. And then I had 2 intensives of 10 days. So you do roughly about 4 hours, 5 hours of practice, anatomy, and philosophy when you're there, learning about the sutras and all sorts of different things. But yeah, so you first of all start off doing your 200 hours, if that explains it well. Yeah.
So bringing this conversation to the present, could you tell us a little bit about your business today?
So my business today, obviously I'm independent. I work not on my own, but I've kind of created, what I didn't realize was that I am my brand. And that's been a really hard concept for me to get into my head, because I'm not selling a skill in a way. But with yoga, people have to believe in you. And in order for people to believe in you, you have to believe in yourself and practice what you preach. So it's been really interesting. Before with hairdressing, I'd be selling, I can do this haircut or these colors or whatever. So, it was never kind of, it's a different way. So my business today, I work in studios. I also have my own independent class in Kingston. I am a brand ambassador for Sweaty Betty. So I host and hold events for them and support the community there. But that's all been flipped upside down right now. So I have now created an online brand, an online business, and become a marketing expert, if I can call myself that, overnight. So I have now created these online classes. So my business is about supporting people physically and emotionally through their yoga practice. A lot of people can be a bit worried that it's super spiritual. But it depends what you want to get from it. At different times in your life, you're going to gain different things from your yoga practice.
Within sort of 10 minutes of this conversation, Roisin, it's really clear to me, and I'm sure to our listeners, that you've got this sort of go-getter attitude from the day you decided to leave the salon that you worked at to set up your own hairstyling, hairdressing practice, then to actually reinventing yourself and going through your yoga teacher training and now having this yoga business that you're running. That just completely screams out to me in this conversation. And I think especially our younger listeners who perhaps have their own dreams of setting up their own businesses or finding a field that they can be as passionate about as you are about yours. I mean, that's just super inspirational. So let me pick your brains on something you've just said there, because I think that despite the scientifically backed research that states, that practicing yoga can reduce stress, reduce anxiety levels, there's still a lot of people like me, as I referred to at the top of the show, that can feel quite overwhelmed by the notion of actually learning and doing yoga. Could you speak a little bit about that and your feelings towards that?
Yes. So, what is it that you are, the sort of, not puts you off, but what is it? Is it the spiritual side of it that people are concerned about? Like, I think a lot of people, I love it. I think I used to think this as well. Like, you have to smell like cabbage and wear hemp clothes and not brush your hair and like lie on the grass and stare at the clouds every day. I think that's the common misconception. But, and then you've got the other side of things. So people just want to come to yoga and do all the cool stuff. Like, they want to balance on their hands and they want to get a really like tight yoga bum, because yogis have good bums. I'm telling you now, there's so much activation there. You're going to definitely get that if you do yoga. But for people who want to start yoga, but they're not sure, well, first of all, you're not going to levitate within the first week. And you're not going to understand everything. Just like if you started archery, you're probably not going to hit the center of the target. It's going to take you a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. But if you're really, really dedicated, you will find your practice. And that sounds really, really broad, what I just said. But there are so many different types of yoga to practice. First of all, breathing is a yoga practice. Being mindful of others is a yoga practice. So at different times of your life, you will find the practice that you need. It's just whether you're embodying your core values. But the physical side of things, I struggled with this. So you have, you've got yin, ashtanga, rocket, bhakti, vinyasa, restorative, iyengar. I mean, I could go on. You think, have you just read a cocktail list, or are you talking about yoga here? So it depends on the type of yoga that you want and that you need to do. And you're not going to crack that in week one. I believe that if you start yoga, you need to give it 6 classes to really decide if you don't like it, if it's not for you. The most common types of yoga that people tend to go straight into is vinyasa. And I teach a lot of vinyasa. It's a continuous movement. The thing that I love about it when people first start is that people don't realize yoga's hard. Like, yoga's really hard. And then we get used to breathe in weird ways and it doesn't click for a long time. But it is so good for you. You just have to persevere with it. So, and also, you know what? People come and they do yoga and then they roll up their mats and they go home. Ask questions. Us teachers, we want people to ask questions. I want you to say to me, this doesn't feel right, or I didn't understand what this word meant. There is nothing wrong with asking questions. And I think all too often we're sort of a bit too shy because we feel stupid if we ask a question. And you're not going to learn anything if you don't ask. So if you're ready there to learn and you want to try and better yourself, the teacher, oh God, that's our driving force. We want everyone to understand and feel it how we do. So hopefully I can give you more confidence. I mean, something that I have been considering and thinking about was I was going to do like a 6-week beginner course. Because that's something that wasn't available to me when I first started, and to kind of put it out there. So, just to explain everything, I've got really bad hearing. I'm partially deaf in one ear. And I was doing, what's it called? Bikram yoga, the one that's in a really, really hot sauna. And they get very dedicated people. I mean, you'd have an 80-year-old woman folded into a pretzel next to a bodybuilder who's doing the same thing. Like, it's mental in there. And you're in a sauna. It's like the Sahara Desert. And I thought at the end of the yoga class, they said, have a nice day. So I was like, that is so nice. I love that. I love yoga. It's so nice. Have a nice day. Well, it wasn't until my friend came that I heard that it's actually namaste. So, you're not always going to get it right. But I kept going back, So, ask questions. Find a beginner course. Do some research, but also don't just do everything through the internet. Like, speak to someone. Can they recommend a teacher? So,
and I think that's really, really interesting. And I think for me, just personally speaking here, the mindfulness side of yoga is actually what attracts me to it. And then having paid attention, or a bit more attention, to the physical aspect of it, I can totally see what you're saying when you say that it's physically hard. Well, sorry, that it can be as physically challenging as anybody wants it to be. I mean, all our listeners need to do is go onto your social media profile, say on Instagram, and they will see some videos of this continuous movement style of yoga that you talk about. And it's no doubt going to be a proper full body workout, isn't it?
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, I just did another rocket training. So rocket was based on Ashtanga, Rocket's really cool. It's like fiery inversions, this, that, and the other. And I did an online training at home a couple of weeks ago. We have an office in the garden. My husband said, he said, you didn't stop moving for about 4 hours. And
Wow.
day 2 into it, I couldn't walk. I couldn't lift my arms up. Like, I can't tell you how physical this is. Not all styles of yoga are like that, but it's such a full body workout and this is the thing, it's from the inside out. When you relax on the inside, you achieve these amazing things that you never thought you could. Your brain, you see something as an adult, someone doing a headstand, and immediately wall goes up. Boom. No, I could do that when I was 7, but I can't do that now. Why can't you do that now? Let's just take the wall down brick by brick, session by session. Okay, maybe session 2, you do the headstand. Maybe session 100, you do the headstand. Maybe you never do the headstand, but don't put the wall up in front of you for no reason. You just got to soften into the moment and just kind of see what happens. And if you fall over, you've just fallen over. It's no big deal. I think as adults, we forget the art of playing. We forget that learning doesn't have to be right and a ticked box. Learning takes twists and turns. I always say this, it's the unmarked trail in your mind. You just got to take all the twists and turns and whatever and just see what happens. But yeah,
that's really interesting. Roisin, let me pull on another thread you've mentioned a second ago there, and that's around yoga being breathing. So it's pretty obvious that in this lockdown situation that we're living through, I mean, it can play havoc on our bodies and our minds. And I think, at times during these last 10 weeks of lockdown, whatever it's been, I'm sure that all of us in different ways have maybe felt slightly even disconnected with ourselves. So for the benefit of our listeners, are there any sort of simple yoga poses or breathing exercise that you would suggest our listeners perhaps try if they're curious about yoga, or just to try to center their mindset?
Yeah, definitely. Well, as human beings, we only really use about 30 to 40% of our lung capacity throughout the day. So if you think about that, you're only really breathing up to your mid-thighs, and you could be breathing all the way up to the crown of your head, taking in all that oxygen, clarity, calming the nervous system. But we're too busy rushing around and thinking in the head that we forget to breathe properly. And what happens is your nervous system gets spiked, and you're constantly kind of living in this fight or flight. Your adrenal glands are constantly working. So the breath is the first thing to tap into. So I like to think of the breath as like an internal massage. So you can fold your body into all sorts of shapes and try and release these muscles, but you've got a big working system within you that's going to press internally. So let's just see how that feels. Let's take a big deep breath in through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. You feel that weight across your chest, and you're just dropping down into your belly. Yeah, that feels really good. So first breath technique of the day. Don't look at your phone. Just take a deep breath in, and we'll do this 10 times, not now. You can do it in the morning or later on in the afternoon, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And then the second technique of times when you're super stressed and you want that kind of like to feel alive within and to charge the brain up in the middle of the day. There's a beautiful technique called box breathing. Now you could Google this, but we're going to do it together now. So box breathing, we use the count of 4. And imagine your chest, your torso is a big square. Okay, so we're going to inhale for the count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath for 2, 3, 4. Begin to exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. We'll do one more round. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Allow the breath to just come back to a natural rhythm. So that is your breath technique.
That's
And
phenomenal.
in yoga, your breath is called prana. So pranayama, breath technique. Your prana in Sanskrit means life force, because without our breath, we have nothing. So when that email flashes up, when you're feeling stressed and you're so centered on getting the email out or this piece of work out, you're not breathing properly, you have nothing. You can't actively do your work. So focus on your breath first, recenter yourself, and then everything else can unfold. But yeah, that is yoga. Sitting, breathing is yoga. Being mindful is yoga.
That's really, really cool, Roisin. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And I urge our listeners to just rewind this bit on their phone, if they're listening on their phone or on their computer, and just try that again. I was doing it with you as you were teaching us that technique, and it's super relaxing. Literally just the simplest breathing exercise is super relaxing. So thank you for that. Let me switch gears on you slightly, if I may, Roisin. How are you finding running your business virtually during lockdown? And could you give or point our listeners to some places where perhaps you're running virtual classes if they would like to know a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, my world got flipped upside down. I had retreats that I was going to. I was taking 15 people to Spain. I had a men's charity yoga event at a brewery planned. And then this happened. And my job is physical. Like I'm in a studio, I'm seeing people, and then all of a sudden I had to go online and be a computer person, which is crazy. But I learned, and I've got a website. It's concretejungleyoga.com. My same handle on Instagram is that. And I've now been holding a vinyasa flow class, which is all levels, on a Monday at 7:00, and a power yoga class, which is kind of more skills and drills based, although it's a yoga underlying. We still focus on breath and mindfulness, and that's on a Thursday at 8:00. So virtually, I'm holding those two classes, and I have other classes as well. A lot of people through this time have financially suffered. So with my being a Sweaty Betty ambassador, I hold on a Monday at 8 a.m. A Facebook Live. So it's on the Sweaty Betty Facebook page, Sweaty Betty Kingston, and anybody can access that and do that for free if they just want to sample it. That's more of a gentle starter to your Monday. But yeah, so you can go onto my website, find out about me, my dog, and you can book my classes through there. I also have a bank of recorded classes, which I'm kind of not sure what to do with now. There's been a great demand for them. So I'm thinking of maybe kind of trying to set up a subscription that's really cost effective for people, so they can select classes to do whenever they want them. I'm trying to evolve with the times and realize it's not just a place for the big superstar yogis to have online classes. There is a seat at the table for me as well. So yeah, I've got live classes and recorded classes for people to try. And now at the moment, I'm doing one-to-one yoga sessions. So for people who are beginning, I can do those at a safe distance. And also for regular clients, I've been able to keep their practice up with one-to-one sessions too.
Oh, that's great. Roisin, you've just mentioned one of the events that you were going to host before, of course, this lockdown situation kicked in. And I had actually seen this event on social media, I think through LinkedIn. And that was a men's yoga class at a brewery. And I thought, firstly, wow, what a novel way of getting men to actually go, all right, then I'll give this a go. I mean, you put the yoga class in a brewery, then suddenly it's like, the barriers are down. Could you tell us a little bit about what prompted you to think about that class, and how you were planning on running it, or what was the reason behind running a class like that?
I'm so pleased you've asked me, because it's something that I really hold dear to my heart. The whole reason behind it is because we don't get enough men in yoga classes. And now yoga, it's not going to save the planet, I know that, but it can definitely make a huge difference to each individual person's lives. And I have sadly lost 3 male friends to their own lives, and it really cuts me down to the core. And men don't really talk enough, and yoga can be a very female dominated environment. And so I wanted to try and combine my skills and local businesses and my passion to create an event and a safe space for men to come and try something new. I was teaming up with Mind in Kingston. It was a non-profit event that I was doing. So I was raising money for Mind in Kingston. And I was hosting the event at the Park Brewery in, that's in Kingston as well. If you don't know their beers, they're really good.
They are. In fact, we've had Frankie from the brewery over here, on the show. Yeah, very much. That was a great conversation.
Oh, amazing. Well, there you go. There's a nice connection there. So I'm always on the hunt for something different, something new. And I thought, let's dump it in a brewery. Let's put it there because that's going to make, and then Doe and Deer, he's from Hampton. He has, sadly also has experience in this. I think that he has also lost a friend to his own mental health. And he is a really cool guy who has a pizza truck, a Land Rover Defender. So he was coming to do the pizzas. We have beer, pizzas and yoga. And I was so excited to spread my message. And also, I can tell you here as well, because I am going to do it. So if anybody is interested, please, when you see it on my social media, please book on. I just really want to show you what this is all about. I'm not going to make you hold hands and sing and hug. Although I was tempted to do that just to wind you all up, but I'm not going to do that. We were going to do yoga. And I was getting everyone to bring an alcohol-free beer. And they were super cool at the Park Brewery. They didn't care what brand it was. They were ready to just help me host this. And after the yoga, I'm going to make everyone swap their alcohol-free beer with someone that they don't know to open up conversations. Just say, hey, man, what do you think of the yoga? And just to chat to someone that you don't know, because that's where I came from, a place to starting my yoga journey, trying to meet like-minded people and to kind of bring a collection of guys together to try something different. All the money, like I said, was going to Mind. There is going to be a beer tasting. I'll say it because it is going to happen. But that's what it was all about. I wanted to get men talking, to try yoga. They might hate it afterwards, but you've tried it. And to support local businesses and charities within Kingston. Because I did a similar thing for a women's charity in Kingston just before Christmas as well. But yes, I want more men to come to yoga. If anyone is listening to this and you've got questions, please email me. I'd be so happy to answer. My Monday night yoga class in Kingston, my husband is the only guy there. He's busting his gut there at the front, trying so hard. And he loves yoga now. And he would just love another guy to come, So if you're concerned, Barney is there and he will welcome you with open arms and tight hamstrings as well. And I will help you with your yoga journey. But yeah, if you've got questions, just let me know. It's really not. It is changing. It is changing, but it is predominantly, I'd say, 70% women. If I've got my calculation right, 30% men. And that should change. It's such a good thing for your mind and your body, especially as we get older. We need to look after ourselves better.
Yeah. Well, look, you should be really proud of that initiative there, Roisin. That's awesome. It screams and speaks to what this podcast is all about, which is highlighting all the different businesses that we have in our community and strengthening the connections between the businesses and the community too. And you're doing that with the added layer of supporting a great local charity. So absolutely hats off to you for that.
Thank you.
Roisin, what are some of the key business lessons you've learned throughout your life?
Oh, key business lessons. When I started I started my hairdressing business, and didn't know what was going to happen, if I was going to earn any money or anything like that. But my whole motto has always been nothing to lose, everything to gain. Because, when you start a business, you start with nothing and you can't get lower than nothing, really. So if anything, if it's not a financial gain, you're going to learn something to add to the story of your journey. So nothing to lose, everything to gain, because you're going to get an experience from it and learn how to do it differently next time. But my big thing is like, you just can't give up. If you really, really believe in it and it's in your core values, it's in your soul, whether it's selling mugs or anything, and you believe in your product, you've just got to persevere with it. Also, the power of social media, learn to adapt. What's the key phrase now? Pivot. I think that's the word.
Yeah.
Learn to pivot, like roll with the times. Okay, so you could set up a TikTok account and you've got a mug company, and maybe it doesn't work fully, but at least you tried it. And even if that's not a dead end, that's just another branch. If you imagine your business is like a tree, you plant the tree, and you're going to have a billion branches that come off of it, and not all of them are going to be the biggest branch, but something is going to grow from it. It just takes time and persevere, and hold your core values the whole time that you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look back at your career journey to date, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? Oh, goodness me. I haven't given up. It's so easy to give up. And probably very different to other ways that people would set their business up. But I never set out to be a Sweaty Betty ambassador. I never set out for a financial goal. I set out because I want to make people feel better about themselves and make them feel, experience yoga. So it's going to be very different to somebody who, has set up, guiding people in a different way. But I think, my proudest moment, is that I never gave up. And also on the flip side of that I am a brand ambassador for one of the biggest UK brands, women's athletic brands. So I am proud of that, because without waking up super early in the morning, dragging myself out of bed late at night, to do all of these things and sacrifice my social life, I wouldn't have got any of that. So 100%. Persevering.
That's awesome. Roisin, what next for you and your business? Are there any projects in the pipeline you can tell us about?
Projects in the pipeline. Well, this year was going to be my year of retreats. I had created these incredible retreats and events. So I was going to Spain, like I said, with 15 people. I was planning another one for later in the year. So that was the plan for this year. And like a cocktail shaker, it's been spun around and spat back out again. So for this year, whether I didn't realize it or not, this year has turned into my digital year and honing these things, doing a podcast for the very first time. And you have made me feel so comfortable that I want to do another one now.
Oh, thank you.
But for the future, I would like to open my own studio. That's my big goal. I want to create a space, a community space for anyone and everyone to come and experience yoga and create a more holistically well-rounded life for themselves and their families. So that is my big end goal. Well, not end goal, but my that's what I'm working towards. The top of the tree, the fruit at the top of the tree. That's what I'm kind of climbing towards.
That's really cool. Roisin, as we start to wrap up, I'd like to ask you a few quick fire questions that our listeners are always interested in. So what do you do to relax outside of the office?
Walk my dog.
Cool. That's very cool. And there's some lovely walks in and around Kingston.
No second thought about that. Walk my dog. He is like my little shining light. I love him so much. He's called Mowgli. And home park, walking there.
Awesome. Are there any books that you've recently read that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Yoga books for women. Shakti Rising, about embodying and understanding the goddess that we have within, the divine warrior within. But my favorite book that I've ever read, and this time I didn't realize how great it would be politically, but my favorite book is The Help. And there's a great movie that goes with it, but the book's always better than the movie. So The Help, it's amazing. It's about a can't remember when it's set, in the 50s. And it's all about the black housemaids that are living in the homes of richer white people in Southern America. That's my favorite book I've ever read. So definitely give that a read.
Yeah, I definitely second the movie. I thought that was super powerful. I haven't read the book yet, but that will be on my to-read list going forward.
Yeah, the book is just on a whole nother level. Because I think, the producers of films they interpret it in a way that you want that they want you to see it. And then when you read it, you kind of take on your own interpretation. But yeah, definitely read that book.
Very true. And on that thread, are there any movies or TV shows that you've recently watched that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Oh my God. This is so funny that you've asked me this. I mean, I don't like watching anything that's sad, so I'm not the best person. Do you know what? One of my favorite recent films that I've watched is The Secret Life of Pets. And I just think it's hilarious. So no, I don't like watching anything that's sad or anything that's serious. I'm very much a kids film type of person. Secret Life of Pets is amazing.
Yeah, and I most definitely second that, having watched it with my children a number of times. It's a very, very good movie.
The head banging, the metal head poodle is my favourite. Yeah.
For sure. Finally, where can people go to find out more about you and your business?
So you can follow me on my Instagram. You can find me there, Concrete Jungle Yoga. And that's the same for Facebook. And then my website, which is the same with a .com. You can find everything out about my classes, contact me, and see me fold into awkward shapes if you're interested in that as well.
Cool. And for the benefit of our listeners, I'll make sure I add these resources to the show notes. Roisin, thank you very much for joining us here on the Inside Kingston podcast. It's been a pleasure getting to know your story.
Thank you, Amir. Have a wonderful day.
That wraps up another episode of the Inside Kingston podcast. Make sure to check out our guests' website, pay them a visit, and help spread the word about what they're doing. If you have any questions or know someone who should be a guest on the show, please feel free to get in touch. I would also love it if you could go to iTunes and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on some great guests, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rate well on iTunes so that others can find and enjoy the show too. Thanks for listening.